Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes.
And Mr. Kohberger, you understand that by entering the guilty plea in this case, you would be giving up your right to appeal any decision this court made, as well as your sentence.
Yes.
This morning, we keep the spotlight on the case of the Idaho 4 student murders, as tomorrow, Bryan Kohberger is going to receive his sentence. And it may be the last time we see him in court. And many people still trying to put together the pieces of the puzzle. Did he set his sights on those 4 beautiful University of Idaho students? Well, we know that the night of the murders, Kaylee Goncalves and Maddie Mogen visited the Corner Bar, which is a food truck just outside. And within walking distance was the Mad Greek restaurant where both of the girls worked. An unnamed worker at the Mad Greek told People magazine that he remembered seeing Kohberger there at least twice, saying that Kohberger's order stood out to him because of his vegan diet. Now, in the book, The Idaho 4, which we've been going over this week on the program, a friend describes a reoccurring dream that Maddie met Kohberger at the restaurant. And in the dream, he says, "I'm Bryan, what's your name?" Maddie hesitates, then tells him. She hands him the check and he pays. He asks then, "Would you like to go out sometime?" And she says, no. The revelations about Kohberger's visits to the Mad Greek, more evidence that he could have been possibly stalking those girls. Police have evidence that he was messaging some of them on Instagram and watching them from outside of their home. Let's talk about this. I want to bring in private investigator Manuel Gomez of Black Ops Private Investigations. He's also a former Army intelligence officer and member of the NYPD, and criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Matt Timpanek. Manuel, let me begin with you. What are the chances that an encounter at that restaurant could have sparked the homicides?
I think that it's very highly likely that that did spark it, because Maddie was such a sweet and endearing person, and she was like the perfect candidate for an apex predator like Bryan Kohberger. And you have to remember, one of the things about Bryan is that in college he studied forensic psychology, and he was about to get his PhD, and he studied the methods of serial killers. So he was stalking. He was preparing which is going to be his victim, his first victims, to initiate his serial killing pattern.
Boy, this is really helpful. I love that you called him an apex predator, Manuel. Thank you for that. Matt Timpanek, looking at all the facts as we know them, and as you know, the court docket still remains largely sealed. I know you've been reading over everything available to read, and we're hoping that things start to get unsealed piece by piece with the conclusion of this case tomorrow. Tell me your thoughts on whether we'll get any answers tomorrow, Matt. As an attorney, do you think anything's going to come out of this sentencing that's going to help, I guess, help people make sense, is probably the best way, because it makes sense of these homicides?
I don't know if we're unfortunately going to get that, because in the state of Idaho, I don't believe an allocution is required to be able to actually enter into the plea. So Bryan Kohberger has said probably all that he's going to say. He may apologize again and for what he had done, but I don't know if we're really going to get like what actually caused this. What, it's not the who, we know that, it's the why that is still eluding people. And I definitely think that the law enforcement appeared to have the theory that she was, Kohberger was apparently stalking one of the victims, and potentially the other witnesses might have, the other victims, I should say, were maybe collateral damage. But we don't know that. And it's really unfortunate that they're never going to be able to potentially know why Bryan Kohberger ended their lives, and their family be able to get that closure. They're always going to be left wondering why. And I don't know. I think that's definitely something that's going to be weighing tomorrow. Hopefully there is closure, but I'm not holding out hope, unfortunately.
All right, Matt. No, thank you for that. Manuel, you know, we love on this program to ask you for safety advice, and I think a lot of people are just so disgusted, fearful, just chilled by these details of this guy preying upon these students. And when we think about maybe he was watching them from outside of their house, that there seems to be some evidence of that he may have been very aware of which room these girls were living in this home, and he's coming by at night. Share with us some safety information, if you would, please, Manuel. What are some of the things we can all think about to stay safer from predators like Bryan Kohberger?
Well, one of the things that I recommend to a lot of my clients, Shakespeare said, the pen is mightier than a sword. And I recommend a tactical assault pen for most women to carry. They cost about $35. They're sold by a company called Uzi. And you can use it as a weapon. You can use it to write, and they're legal to carry in any state. Also recommend for women to, get a spy watch if you feel like you're being stalked, so you can catch it on video. 99% of the times, Julie, when women report that they're being stalking, 99% of my cases, the police take no action and they do not listen to them. And this happens to beautiful women across the United States. For the past 12 years, I've had over 200 cases where women have been stalked and the police took no action. Again, Bryan Kohberger studied forensics. He knew about the patterns of serial killers. He knew what he was doing. And the one thing I hope, like the colleague said about tomorrow, that maybe there's nothing's going to happen. But when they give the victim impact statements, I hope the judges reverses this plea and makes him go to trial, because Bryan Kohberger is a poster child for the death penalty. We don't need a monster like this in our society.
Manuel, I know a lot of people feel the way you do, and you just said it. I know the Goncalveses were disgusted by it. They were sick about it, that this plea was negotiated, a negotiated plea with those prosecutors in Idaho. And let's talk about that legally. Legally, Matt Tipanik, is there any way you could see anything falling apart at this point, or is it a done deal?
The only thing I could potentially see is if the judge decides that not to accept the plea, because the defendant has pled guilty. But remember, the judge still has to impose the sentence. He has to decide that, okay, I'm going to accept it. Plea bargains are not binding on the court. They are just often a formality, because judges' dockets are usually so outrageous that they have to move cases. This is not every case. That said, I just don't know if when a judge takes a plea and they are understanding that the state has made the determination that this is what they want to do, and the judge, usually it's like, all right, if they're willing to do this, they have to have some kind of reason. It could be to spare the families of all the gruesome details. It could be to hedge against a potential conspiracy argument from the defense. It could be a potential motion to suppress that they're worried about with the DNA from the that they found from the ancestry results. All of that, and the judge, it's in their best interest to usually just accept it. Is it possible they reject it? Yes, but is it likely? No.
Great insight and analysis from you both. Thank you kindly. Matt Tipanik, Manuel Gomez, really appreciate it.